Welcome to CIA Declassified. We are the deep dive audio experience that excavates the most protected secrets of the 20th century, everything from the geopolitical impact of ancient cryptids to the reality of weaponized radio waves. Last, we uncovered the strange failures and successes of Project Ghost Fleet, where the agency tried to weaponize the mind's intent. Today, we leave behind psychic whispers and move into a realm of hard physics and intentional lethality. We are opening a document that proves the Central Intelligence Agency spent millions trying to engineer a clean, undetectable way to kill a target from a distance, making the assassination look like a sudden, natural health failure. This is Project Mimic Heart, the story of MKULTRA Subproject 118. Initiated in the late 1960s, this program sought to weaponize non-thermal microwave energy, not to cook or heat, but to subtly interfere with the body's electrical command center, the heart and the brain. The core goal was to create a technological assassin that could trigger a remote, untraceable heart attack. The results were chilling, and the documents that survived the purge proved the agency achieved the biological effect that they sought. The spark for Project Mimic Heart was intense paranoia about Soviet technological superiority. Throughout the 1960s, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow was regularly bombarded by low-level microwave radiation emanating from a Soviet source. While the official stance was that this was surveillance, the CIA feared a darker truth, that the Soviets were using these beams for neurological or behavioral modification. This fear fueled Subproject 118. The agency focused specifically on the S-band and C-band frequencies, ranges of microwave energy known to penetrate human tissue effectively without immediately generating destructive heat. The core document, CIA MKUL 118 test log, is not a summary or final report, but a day-to-day operational log spanning 3 years. It details specific chronological text exposures and the resulting biological measurements. It is the raw data of the program. This log outlines the project's bioeffects theory. Directed microwave pulses could interact with the nervous system's delicate electrical balance. A document quote: "The intent is to achieve biological disruption through non-thermal bioeffect, bypassing all conventional countermeasures and leaving no detectable residue." End quote. The first documented success of Subproject 118 was the mastery of the bioacoustic effect, sometimes called the Frey effect. When certain pulsed microwave frequencies hit the human head, the energy is absorbed by soft tissue and rapidly expands, sending a tiny shockwave through the skull that is perceived by the subject as an internal sound, a clicking, a buzzing, or hissing, perceived only by them. The test log documents initial experiments where human subjects were exposed to these pulses. The results were immediate and severe. Extreme disorientation, subjects lost balance and suffered instant vertigo. Induced nausea, overwhelming gastrointestinal distress, rapid panic. The internal inexplicable sound led to rapid escalation of paranoia and fear, successfully creating a psychological weapon. Engineers quickly realized this was a tool for interrogation and psychological warfare, capable of instantly destabilizing a target without physical contact, but the project's ultimate goal was far more lethal. To achieve the goal of remote cardiac disruption, the team needed a device that could project energy with extreme precision over hundreds of yards. They developed the directional S-band emitter. This device was a complex antenna, large, bulky, and initially requiring a dedicated power truck to run. It was designed to transmit microwave energy focused into a beam only a few feet wide, allowing for precise targeting of a single individual in an open area. The test log describes the operational specifications. Frequency lock. The antenna had to lock onto specific low-frequency biological signals, like heart rate or respiration, to match its output pulse frequency. Pulse modulation. Instead of continuous wave energy, the device used highly specific, tailored pulses designed to mimic the body's natural electrical rhythm, and then to introduce an intentional, fatal interference. The most horrifying sections of CIA MKUL 118 test log detail the cardiac trials. These were conducted on test subjects already deemed medically fragile or non-essential, often sourced from controlled environments. The protocol involved targeting the subject's chest cavity with the focused S-band beam, attempting to induce ventricular fibrillation, the quivering of the heart muscles that leads to immediate cardiac arrest. The goal was to find the magic frequency that could disrupt the heart's electrical pacemaker. The most heavily redacted part of this section is a series of entries under the heading Fatality Report Summaries. These entries are almost entirely blacked out, with only the dates and the resulting medical conclusion, always something like acute myocardial infraction or unspecified cardiac failure, left visible. Hypothesis for redaction. The likely reason for this extensive redaction is twofold. One, to protect the identities of the test subjects, and more darkly, two, to conceal the specific technical details, the precise frequency, duration, and power settings that successfully achieved irreversible cardiac arrest. This is the truly operational secret of the device. The log entries are clinically cold, detailing the results of the exposures. Document, quote, subject 08B, exposure 42 seconds, 2.7 gigahertz pulse at 12 hertz. Observed onset, extreme bradycardia, rapid respiratory distress, termination, successful restoration of normal sinus rhythm via external defibrillation. Result, targeted biological effect achieved, end quote. The team found that specific low-level microwave pulses could indeed disrupt the heart's rhythm, triggering what would later be medically diagnosed as a heart attack caused by unknown factors. The perfect murder weapon was becoming a reality. Subproject 118 also had a secondary, equally disturbing goal: remote respiratory shutdown. The logs detail experiments where subjects were targeted to induce apnea, the sudden cessation of breathing, by aiming the beam at the brainstem. The theory was that the focused microwaves could interfere with the neurological control center for automatic functions like breathing, leading to rapid, quiet asphyxiation. This technique was seen as an ideal for assassinating targets in crowded areas where a quiet collapse would be less immediately disruptive than a full heart attack. The CIA MKUL-118 test log indicates the technique was less successful than the cardiac trials. The beam required too much power and too precise a lock on the brainstem. The slightest movement of the target would cause the effect to fail. Despite the biomedical success, Project Mimic Heart failed the ultimate operational test: discretion. The directional S-band emitter was simply too large and too power-hungry to be deployed covertly. The final operational prototype required a truck-mounted generator, a massive antenna dish, 4 feet in diameter, and a team of 3 operators to manage the targeting and power flow. To achieve the required power levels to induce cardiac arrest through clothing and over distance, the device produced a massive, unmistakable electromagnetic signature, a telltale sign for any competent counterintelligence agency. The summary of the project, written in 1971, concluded, the remote bioeffect is proven, but the size, weight, power, swap, ES-WAP, this part's redacted, profile renders the emitter unsuitable for deniable covert use. Deployment is limited to fixed military targets or large overt surveillance platforms, end quote. The project's overall conclusion is a dichotomy. Technologically, it was a success. Operationally, it was a total failure. The agency achieved the terrifying biological effect, but the resulting weapon was too loud, too large, and too visible to ever be used as the silent assassin it was intended to be. Project Mimic Heart represents one of the most ethically bankrupt chapters of MKUltra. The sheer callousness of intentionally inducing heart attacks in human subjects, even those deemed disposable by the state, is chilling. The most heavily redacted section outside of the fatality logs is a summary of the personnel culpability review following the project's cessation. This entire section is almost completely blacked out. Hypothesis for the redaction: this protects the identities of the supervisory CIA officers and high-ranking medical personnel who authorized and oversaw the testing protocols. Protecting these names was deemed necessary to prevent personal lawsuits and maintain the integrity of the agency's leadership decades later. When MKUltra was officially shut down in the early 1970s, the vast majority of records were intentionally destroyed by Richard Helms. The mere survival of CIA MKUL-118 test log is a minor miracle, likely due to a clerical error in the final purge. Like many MKUltra projects, Subproject 118 was officially deemed a failure and shelved, but its science was repurposed. The knowledge gained about non-thermal bioeffects and pulse modulation didn't disappear. That research was funneled into non-lethal crowd control. The bioacoustic and disorientation effects became foundational for non-lethal directed energy weapons used for crowd dispersal and area denial based on the technology's proven ability to induce instantaneous nausea and panic, as well as advanced interrogation. The ability to induce rapid, severe panic and disorientation made the underlying technology a valuable tool in creating stressful, perception-altering environments for detainees. The mimic heart itself failed, but the technology it developed became a fundamental, pervasive element in modern security and military applications, just without the assassination feature. Project Mimic Heart is the ultimate realization of Cold War paranoia, the desire for a weapon so subtle it could rewrite the death certificate. The sheer scale of the engineering effort, the massive S-band emitters, the elaborate power demands, shows how desperately the CIA wanted this capability. They proved they could remotely disrupt human biology. They just couldn't make the weapon invisible. But the knowledge they gained about the human body's fragility in the face of focused energy lives on, quietly informing technologies that surround us today. We've explored the weapons of the invisible hand. Next time we go inside the human head itself, we open the file on MKULTRA subproject 129, the bizarre, heavily obscured program focused on developing a micro-miniature implantable electronic device capable of remote memory manipulation. The program, which started in the early 1970s, sought to use subdermal implants to either trigger specific memories or induce total targeted amnesia in a subject. We examined the documents detailing the search for a biocompatible memory bridge and the ethical crisis that led to the project's abrupt termination. We read from the CIA MKUL 129 summary report, which details the chilling conclusion that the device was technically feasible but uncontrollably dangerous. In the meantime, keep an eye on the shadows, mind your step, and question your memories. I'll see you in the archives.